Okay, now it's time for the final tip, and honestly, the most important one. By this point, you have talked with your child and gained some insight from their perspective about what potentially could be going on with the testing at school. You have prepared for a meeting with your child's teacher, and maybe even you have been to the school at this point and had a conversation with your child's teacher. And all of those things have been very profitable for you. But this final tip is the one that you do not want to neglect. And that tip is to stay engaged. Now that you've opened the doors of communication, do not let them close again. And there are some simple things that you can do in order to keep those doors open. The first one is to actively talk to your child every single day when you pick them up in car line, when the school bus drops them off, or when you get home from work. Sit down and have a conversation with your child. Ask them what they learned in school that day. Ask them, did they understand it? And honestly, this process may take a while, especially if they're not used to having this conversation. You may have to really encourage them to make a note of the concepts that they covered in math or the things that they went over in science and reading. And then you may have to teach them how to ask you questions in order to give you the information that you need so that you can actively help them. So have these conversations on a daily basis. Teach your child to expect to have these conversations every single day. The other thing is to stay active on the with the child communication system that has been set up by your child's school. Make sure that you stay current on those things. Look for any kind of weekly update or weekly newsletter that comes from your child's classroom teacher and read it carefully and connect anytime that you're asked to connect. Keep that door of communication open. And then finally, the biggest thing and the biggest way to stay engaged is to actually participate in your child's homework process. And the way that you do that may be a little bit unfamiliar to you. But the first one is when they're doing their homework, sit down for a few minutes and just observe as they're working through a math problem. Watch the way that they work it out. If they have a reading assignment, have them read that assignment out loud. And then you actively discuss what that text was about and teach them how to discuss, and all of those things are going to help with their comprehension. So observe what they are actually doing. And then be honest with your input. And part of that is allowing them to make a mistake. For example, let's suppose they're working through a math problem and they get to one of the steps and they make a mistake. The temptation is to stop them right there and not allow them to finish the problem. And that is not what you should do. Allow them to go completely through the problem and then stop and give them honest feedback about what they did. So let's suppose that it is a 5 step problem and they did 4 out of the 5 steps correctly. Encourage them by saying, wow, you did this and this and this and this correctly. However, when you got to this one step, this is where you made your mistake. And this is the only thing that we need to correct. So be honest with your correction. And also in that correction, be encouraging by mentioning the things that they did correctly. Okay. And then the other thing you need to do is trust yourself. To be honest, there are a lot of buzzwords in education today. Math, they have all of these new methods with these cute names, and oftentimes parents are intimidated by this. Your child may come home and their homework is division, and you sit down to help them, and they say, oh, no, mom, dad, we're using the big seven method right now, or my teacher's not doing it like that. Okay, well, that's actually an opportunity. Sit down and say, all right, show me the big seven method and watch what they do. But if you don't understand what they're doing with the Big Seven method, then teach them and show them traditional division. The reality is, you know how to add, subtract, multiply, divide. You were taught all of these things in school. And the things that you were taught are still valid. As a matter of fact, the school systems are going to revert to them soon in middle school and high school, and everyone's going to be doing those traditional methods. So use what you know and teach your child the way that you learned, because all of those things are valid. You're not going to mix them up, you're not going to mess them up, especially if you practice those methods with your child. You may actually be getting them ahead. If they have a reading assignment, have them read it out loud. And yes, they're going to be resistant to this at first, but have them read it out loud, and then you discuss it with them when they're answering questions. Have them tell you what the answer is, and then show you why they say that, and then record their answer and assure them that they're doing it correctly. Because the reality is, you know how to read, you know how to comprehend. Use the things that you know, and don't be intimidated to sit down as a parent and actually help your child. And then finally, let's suppose that your child is doing something and you do not feel like you have the capability to help them. Or maybe you discover that there is a learning issue and you need outside help. That's when you need to find a good, personal, individualized tutor. And that's actually what Daniel tutoring is all about. So, parents, now's the time to stay engaged, because the truth is, you are your child's best advocate when it comes to their education, and you may even be their best teacher.